Hey there, this is Sober Steve. My name is Steve Truesdell and I'm a recovering alcoholic. And welcome to my channel. I appreciate you checking it out. I have been blown away by some of the comments and feedback I've gotten after the first two videos, and I really appreciate that. I'm hopeful that this will help people, or even if it helps one person, then it's worth the time and the effort. Off the feedback that I received, I had somebody had pointed out that they would love to hear my story in chronological order. And I'm going to do that to a degree, but I'm going to do it in numerous videos because, one, I want to try to keep these no longer than 10, 15 minutes at the most, because I know that, people are going to check out, and that's a long time to watch me ramble on. So I'm going to do that to a degree. I also want to point out, if you're not familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous and how that is set up, it's very much like that on the open talk. So AA has, most AA groups have two types of meetings. They have closed meetings and open meetings. Closed meetings are meant for the alcoholic or the person that wants to quit drinking. The only requirement to attend that is a desire to quit drinking. But that's who that's intended for. You walk into the meeting, there's a table or tables, depending on the size of the meeting, and you go around the table and everybody tells their story, or they talk about whatever they want to, or whatever step they're working on, or whatever. And you don't have to talk. You can just say, you know what, thanks for having me. I'm not feeling like talking tonight. You don't have to, but just to give you an idea of how that's set up. And it's just a miraculous thing how when you tell your story and or when you hear somebody else's story, how that helps people. And that's a huge part of the medicine that is AA. And then the open meetings, not all groups have open meetings, but most of them do. Usually the open meetings are less frequent. They're once a month or every couple months. An open meeting, anybody can come. Anybody off the street can come, and you'll have usually one speaker that will tell their story. And I've done open talks early in my sobriety. I haven't done one for a long time. But I'm going to kind of compare this to an open talk, but in different portions. So I know somebody had commented, it was interesting, when I brought up that my first time getting drunk, I was in 6th grade, and actually I felt kind of bad because my dad watched that with me, and his face was kind of like, how do we not know that? Well, he doesn't remember because he's 82, but they did know that. And my mom actually found out from a neighbor friend in a bowling league or something, and I got in trouble for it. So they did find out about that, but then they didn't know for a long time that I was drinking. And they said they were good parents, and they were active in all of our lives. And it just was something that I always had a problem with. And I was pretty good at hiding it. But anyway, as I talked about before, so many of us have alcoholics in our family, and we inherit that trait or gene from the bloodline. For me, my parents weren't alcoholics. They never heavy drinkers. My sister and brother, no problem with alcohol. And I had one grandpa that was definitely an alcoholic, and I think I kind of took after him, and he never got clean, and he was a fun-loving guy, and then when he drank, he was mean. He'd say things that weren't nice at all. And I think I was guilty of that too, not to the degree that he was, but when I drank, I wasn't myself. I was usually fun-loving, and people loved being around me and stuff, but if things were bothering me or if somebody upset me, I didn't handle it well when I drank. And so anyway, that's one of the reasons why I ended up going into recovery. And that's gonna be a whole tape into itself, or recording into itself. I'll tell you when I went into my outpatient rehab and what that was like. But anyway, so bloodline, my grandpa had it. I started drinking early. I remember going to some parties in like 7th and 8th grade where a couple of my buddies had, found a way to get booze, and, we drank. And I remember riding my bicycle, I think in 8th or 9th grade, across the town that I lived in, and I actually hit a car. I was at a traffic light or the car was stopped at a traffic light, and I was riding on the shoulder, and I slammed it in the back of his car. And he got out. He was all worried about me because I was a kid. He probably didn't even think, well, this kid's hammered, you know. So I was hammered right into his car. So he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, you should be. You're sitting at the stoplight, and some kid smashes into you. So anyway, puts my bike in the trunk and asks me where I live. And it's like, I'm not going to tell him where I live because he's not taking me home to my parents. So I'm like that. So I had him take me to a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, who her dad was kind of cool. And I just rolled the dice with that one. So he took me there, and that was it. But I'm just trying to give you examples of things that I would do. And, I just remember in 9th grade when I got into high school, then it was easier to get alcohol because you had some, I befriended some juniors and seniors, and then they had brothers that were old enough to buy it, or sisters that were old enough to buy it, or, they had ways to do it. So I started to get alcohol more often. Side note, you pay a heavy premium though, because I remember paying like triple the price of something, but they, like they were making profit. It was like a bootlegger's thing. But I had a little bottle of Jack Daniels in my locker. And I played football. I played basketball in 9th grade. I don't know. I don't know if my coaches ever smelled it on me or whatever, but I drank. And it's not easy going to football practice after drinking Jack Daniels either, I'll tell you that. So it just escalated, Then there started to be parties, and after games we would have parties, and more of my friends started drinking now because, once you're in high school, most kids, let's face it, they're trying drinking or experimenting with drinking, and a lot of kids binge drink and drink too much, but not all of them are alcoholics, and it's just, you you just never know if that's your number, and so a lot of kids that age, I'd say from, 15 to 23, that age. This is just my perception. I don't have any stats. To me, in that age group, especially like 17 to 23, the main activity is they drink. People go out parties and drink. They drink. That's like the main activity, and so it's tough. It's tough to abstain when you're that age, but And I never abstained. And so it progressively got worse and worse and worse. And I did some things regrettably. When I got my driver's license in 10th grade, 16 years old, and I had my driver's license for 30, 45 days maybe. And my mom had given me her old car. She got a new car, and it was a 1971 Cutlass. And that thing had an engine in it, though. It'd go like 130 miles an hour, which that's kind of scary. And like 30 or 45 days after having it, I had some friends in my car. We had gone out, I don't remember where, and I was driving 2 of them home, and I was driving on 10 Mile Road in Novi, and I was going probably 80 miles an hour and passed a couple of cars, and then it was time to turn into the subdivision, and I slammed on the brakes kind of late, took the turn wide, popped a curb, smashed into these big boulders, and totaled the car. And luckily, none of us were injured, and which was amazing because I honestly don't think we were wearing seat belts. And one of my friends that was in the car lived in the neighborhood, and he walked home, and the other one was stuck because he lived down where I did. And a couple volunteer firemen came to make sure we were okay. And then I didn't know it, but they had called the police, and we had beer cans in the back seat, and it was just stupid. But anyway, they arrested me, and I lost my license for 6 months, I think. It's different. It was different back then, and I had to go to like an alcohol class for the county or something. It was silly. I just told them what, I knew they wanted to hear, and I just got right through it. So, but that was a traumatic moment in my life because it caused my parents a lot of pain, and I loved my parents. I always have loved my parents, and I hated putting them through that. So I started to really not like myself at that moment. And then, I still needed to drink, so I still drank, and it just escalated from there. I remember by the end of 10th grade, after I was 16, I got a job at Little Caesars Pizza in Novi, and then you're hanging around a lot of older people, and they can buy for you. So it got really, really easy to get alcohol, and I had a job, so now I had money. Now, one thing that I want to do is a quick shout out to whoever it was at the Novi Party Store that when I was 16, I stood outside the store, and we would do this often. And I said, hey man, can you get me a case of Budweiser? He's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I gave him $20, and he took the $20 and he put it in his pocket, and he got back in his car and drove away. I deserve that. Shout out to that guy. So anyway, that's how it was. And, we did have a lot of fun times. There were a lot of laughs, thankfully I made it through, okay. A lot of people aren't that lucky. People get killed, in those drunk driving accidents every day, and it's tragic. And, I'm very grateful, for the way things ended up for me. And I'm so glad I didn't hurt anybody else. But, I did emotionally hurt people. And so what I'm trying to get at is, even at that age, when you're an alcoholic, you can be having all the fun that, you want, and you can be the life of the party. But most alcoholics have an inner dialogue that is not nice. Like, they do not like themselves. They aren't happy with themselves. And you can't admit to people that you have that problem usually, because as I said in my intro video, once the cat's out of the bag, how do you take that back? Oh no, I guess I didn't have a problem. And then, because then everybody's going to make you, hey, you got to get clean. You got to, and so it's just so tough. And so it's just a cycle of get drunk, do something stupid, beat yourself up, repeat. And, I did that from the age of, 13 years old till I quit when I was 30. So, and I quit young. I mean, 30 is, I was one of the younger ones in the outpatient rehab and stuff, but I started so early. I still had 17 years, is my math right? 17 years. It's a long time to be drinking heavy. And thankfully I decided, to quit when I was 30. And I'm fortunate that, knock on wood, I have not had a relapse yet. And I've gone through some pretty challenging things in my life, which I'll talk about in another video as well. So anyway, that's kind of the intro to my drinking. I think we're 12 minutes in, so I'm gonna cut this off. But the next video that I do is going to be a field trip. Somebody suggested I do this, so if it's corny and you don't like it, don't watch it. But my girlfriend Marie and I are going for a bike ride tomorrow, and I'm going to take you along on that. It's kind of like Mr. Rogers, except for he has like the make-believe neighborhood. I'm taking you out to a real event, because I guess the point is, when I was a drunk, I would never do stuff like that. And so if you're a heavy drinker and you're not active in, a hobby or getting out there in the world other than going to the bar or parties or whatever, I just want you to know there's a whole world out there. I had no idea. I mean, the hobbies that you pick up and the things you do, I can't wait for tomorrow. I'm going to spend a day with the woman that I love on a bike. We're going to go in northern Michigan, and it doesn't get any better than that. I love it. So I'm taking you with me. We'll keep that to 10 minutes too, or 15 minutes. And then anytime you watch these videos, if you haven't already, I appreciate if you subscribe, because more subscribers you have, then YouTube will promote your videos more when people search and stuff. And I would like this to get out to as many people as possible. And so if you can subscribe, any comments, negative or positive, always welcome them. And also I have that email at soberstevechannel@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to me. And I'll be back on again real soon.